Good morning. This is Mary Flower, and I've had a very rough summer with some of the things I've had to deal with, but things are getting better, and so I'd like to show you what I'm making because I have a local store here that I have to make things for, and I also have a show coming up for Christmas, and I want to show you what I make out of children's books. And I always try to pick the very large size, and I'm particular about it because what I do, I'll show you this in just a minute. What I do is I cut them into pieces, and I make smaller books. And this was one book, and I cut it into several sections. And I will show you what I do with them. Now, I'm not finished with these. This is sort of a process, so I'll probably do more than one video on this. But so I won't be doing a complete flip through on these, just kind of where I'm at on them. And so you can see I've made smaller books out of a larger book. Now, I'm trying to be, real frugal with this, so I try to wait until the library or wherever have a sale on the books, and usually I can get these for about $1/4. And I try to be very careful about the ones now for $1/4 I get as many as I can, but the ones I use for these smaller books, I try to choose them carefully. I like bright colors that, grab your sight, and they make you feel happy. And and I also choose books, kind of like this, that have several interesting images on the whole thing, because I can make 4 books out of this, 4 small books, or I could make 2 taller ones. Like I did with these here. And I take the cover off, and I always use the cover in the pages as well. I use all the pages cut up into the smaller book, add other pieces of paper with it. But see, this one has a lot of fun, crazy images everywhere, and when they're cut up in small pieces, they're even more fun. So I use those pages in there. Here's some examples. Now, I pay $1/4 for these, which makes the covers, with 6-7 cents a piece or something. Yes, I'm a cheapskate, and I try to do this as cheaply as I possibly can. And this one, I like this one because I could probably cut this one right in half. I could even make several. I can even do this and do something funny down here. I like this one because it has different animals about right here. This one would make one book right here. This one and maybe something there. This one I can cut in several pieces, and this is such an odd little creature. It can even be cut in half and still be used as a cover in a most interesting way. I like this one because this one could be cut right down the middle and have a book about weird bugs on this side and one on this side. And this one, I don't really know, but I liked all the pages for it anyway. And it was only $1/4, and so I grab as many as I can when there's a sale on it. Now, what I like to do is, like this one was a book actually about kind of like snakes. It says Find the Snake. Now what I do here, these are extra pieces from the pages that I used in the book. I set them aside, and I try to keep them with the book because this is a process, and I'm about 2/3 of the way through. I have made the covers, which I add a piece of chipboard in here and then put cloth on it. And then I usually find, after I have sewed in the signatures, that is, I find something interesting to go on the side. Now, this one I used, it's sort of like a natural macrame. It was a great big doily macrame type thing, and I cut it all apart, and I got these interesting little pieces at around the edges, and I painted them the colors of the cover here and put them on the side. I find the most interesting things at the thrift stores and yard sales to go on the sides, and I thought, oh, well, I'll probably use those, and I felt doubtful at first, but I thought, oh, no, I usually find something, and I did. This book about snakes, it matches the cover beautifully after I've painted the similar colors as the cover, and I like how it turned out. It kind of gives that snaky look. And then I add all my pages from, everywhere, junk journal pages. Some of them are designer pages. Some of them are from books. And I try to find things that are kind of appropriate and go along with the colors and kind of the theme for these. So I made 3 right there. Then I have another book this was a book that I think this was the back and this is the front, but I couldn't really use it, so I turned it over and made this the front and that the back. So as you can see, it was one book at one time like that. And I had 2 more pieces here, and I can't remember what I did with those. They're probably for another project, but I like this, but you can see I've taken the back for the front. Now let me show you. I tried to use some of the pages from the book, and I think that one turned out funny because this is actually a different piece than this piece, and it turned out sort of funny. And I just throw in other papers along with designer papers, and I put the book together. Usually I try not to get it any more than 2, 3 at most signatures in these small books, because I'm going to add more pieces that I sew with the leftover pieces. I make pockets, tags, tabs for it out of the paper that I used in the book. So it kind of goes, but this is an easier way to sew my pieces and make interesting things to go in there rather than sewing the pages themselves. It just takes me too long, and this is an easier process for me. Now I want to show you some of the edges on this. This one I just used buttons and did red. I tried to make it, go along with the theme and colors that I've used on the cover here. Same here. I just find all sorts of interesting things to go on the side after I have sewed in my signatures. Now with these 2 books, my leftover papers are right here. So I keep these papers with these 2 books because I will show you later what I do with those when I do more of a flip through. I found one book that was just plain, sorry about that, it's real early in the morning and there's not much natural light out, so I hope there's not too many shadows here. This book, this was one book. As you can see, I did the same thing. And it's just basically, I chose all the papers in here as black and white as I could possibly get, using some of the papers that go with the book. And the book was about cats, so I found this little piece of fabric that had cat faces on it, and I will probably use it on the inside here as well a little more, maybe to put here, because I really like this, and you can't see it on this very well. But here's my black and white papers that go along with this book, but I wanted this spine to have something really colorful. This is where I added a new spine, and I love these great big buttons. I try to keep a lot of buttons. I have so many containers full of buttons because I'm always picking up buttons because I use them all the time on the sides. But because it's black and white, I think the colorful colors on the side make it very interesting. And I may make tabs that are these colors too as well, because there wasn't any leftover paper from this. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do on that one. But then I had a book that I think I showed this, I'm not sure, but this one was about mermaids. It was cut into 4 pieces. One of the things I like to do, my handy corner rounder that I paid $2 for at the thrift store. This thing's worth like $140 new. This thing is wonderful. I feel like I found a treasure when I found this, because I can do all of my corners, and it makes them a lot more interesting, a lot more finished, and I really like it. Now, I have an industrial cutter. It's a great big cutter that I used at a place that I worked for, 30, 40 years ago. And they cut metal plates on it. And my husband, they ended the company for some reason, and they had these leftover cutters, and my husband got it for $5 at the time. It's like a $500 industrial cutter. It's a wonderful thing. And so I can cut through these thick books, and you can see some of them are pretty thick on the cover here. Don't use your regular cutter. If you don't have a big industrial cutter like I do, which very few people do, then use some type of saw, because it'll work a lot better. Just take your book and take out all of the pages, and then like a miter saw will work really good, or a skill saw, and just cut it. And it'll work, because these are so thick. And even my industrial cutter, if you can see how thick these are, even my industrial cutter, I have to really use some elbow grease on, the down cut on these is just, I'm saying use some kind of saw. But I take these books, I find the appropriate type of either, pages from the book itself, or designer paper, and this was from the book itself, and then I put them in here. I saved the extra pieces because I'm going to be doing some sewing for pockets and tabs and tags and whatever I want in here. This is only like 2/3 of the way finished, and so there's 4 of them. Now, this cost me for the covers, when you divide 1/4 into 4ths, what do you get? About, 6-7 cents, something like that. Now, another thing I used was this really good-looking growth chart for children. And I already have my own growth chart that I've used for many years, that I decided to take this growth chart, and it was, really long, pretty long, maybe 3 feet. And I cut it into pieces and made the covers for these. It was very thick and nice, just like your regular books, if you can see. And I cut them into sections and made, about 6, 7, 8 books here. And I really like how those turned out. I put a spine on them with some chipboard and some fabric. This one I made quite little, but it's cute. I picked the little sections where there was an interesting image, and then I cover the spines after I've sewed in the signatures, and I add interesting things on the edges. Each one is different, because that's the thing. You want to make them all different, even though they have similar colors. And like I said, I keep some of the papers here, and I will go into that when I do more of these. These I just use some pretty butterflies, And when you take this off, here's the book, like this. I just keep the papers with it. And I do more of a flip through, but I think I want to show you more of how I made the edges. Isn't that cute? Just use different kinds of buttons and a bug here, an apple here. And it kind of matches the colors. Same with this one. And always keep the papers with these. Here's another one. This is a long section of the growth chart. And I thought that was really cute with all those little children. Look at that. And then I use these different colors of children's. They are in the shape of children. And I just used, and I got these many, many years ago. And it looks really cute on the edge of these in different colors. Kind of matches that cute, doesn't it? And sometimes, like this piece right here was actually just a leftover piece, and I couldn't find anything that went with this, but this was from another book, but it matched pretty well, so I put it there. And sometimes I'll do that. A couple more. This one, and I don't know where the other piece is. Sometimes it just doesn't look right. And these two went together. I think this was the back or something. I'm not really sure how this went, but this is from the same book. And I just try to put interesting things on the side. With this one, I found these cute little birds, because there's a little bird right there. I use these embroidered pieces on here as well, and these are the pieces that are left over, like I said. Then I have a couple more. These two came from the same book, and don't let that distract you. I like to add interesting things to the fronts, to the sides. This one, I put these cute little giraffes here with a button to match these. And this one had this funny face here, if you can see. And I find interesting things to go with it. And then this one, I won't show you this one. I'll do that in a later thing. But anyway, I just wanted to show you what I'm working on. I have like 18 books here, and I have about 40 or 50 more to go. But I'm going to finish these here that you can see. I'll kind of show you. I have about 18 of these. So when I finish these with the sewing, I will do more flip through with these so I can show you. But anyway, I hope that was entertaining for you today and helpful in some way. If you're making books out of children's books, this is a really fun way to do it. And give me a thumbs up. I love good comments. I always try to comment back, and I'm feeling a lot happier. My little kitty's getting bigger, and things are better with my children and grandchildren, and life's a little better right now for me. Had a lot of worries, but I'm doing better for those that worried about me. And so anyway, hope you enjoyed that.